There. Okay. Hey everybody, I'm Angie. I'm at the Country Bookshop in Southern Pines, North Carolina. We're right in the middle of the state. I know some of you may have never been to our store before, but I've really enjoyed working with your media specialists and with your principals to make this happen today. We welcome Jason Reynolds to be with us. He is absolutely a rock star in children's literature, and this is quite an honor for us to be able to spend some time with you this afternoon. Jason is the New York Times bestselling author of 17 books. He's a winner of so many awards, they wouldn't even fit on my intro page, but some of the ones I think are the coolest are the Edgar Award, a Newbery Honor, multiple Coretta Scott King Awards, and a 2-time National Book Award finalist. And he is currently the National Ambassador for Children's Literature. Jason was born in Washington, D.C., where most of my family's from too. He moved around a little bit and now lives back in D.C. And Jason and I share a philosophy that we are both cheerleaders for children's literature and believe that children's literature is the cornerstone of all literature. So welcome, Jason. I also want to welcome our 3 school systems that are with us today. We'll start off with Piney Grove Elementary School and Mrs. Deese and Mrs. Black. And I'm going to have Mrs. Black tell us a little bit about your school. Tell us what makes your school so cool.
So our school is a very diverse population. We are in a small community right off Interstate 95. We have a very hardworking group of students and staff as well. And they just came back on board after COVID as a one-to-one technology district and just hit the ground running, and just very proud of them and just excited about what we're going to experience today.
All right. Well, welcome, Piney Grove. All right, Beth Lancaster from Montgomery County Schools. Tell us a little bit about Green Ridge Elementary and Montgomery Learning Academy.
We're super excited to be included in this today. With us, we've got our 4th and 5th grade students from Green Ridge Elementary, which is located on the east side of our county. It's the home of the Giants, and it's just a school full of giant readers and wonderful, wonderful students. And we're so excited for them to be here today. And then we have our middle school students from Montgomery Learning Academy, which pulls kids from the whole county. So you've got kids from every school in our district over there. And we're really excited to be able to share this opportunity with them as well. So thank you.
And then Michelle Gertzel from Aberdeen Elementary.
Hi, we're Aberdeen Elementary, and we've got almost 700 kids going to this school in a wonderful area. Got our 4th and our 5th graders here, and hopefully they are full of their tiger pride. We are a very loving kind of school, working on a lot of the social emotional aspects of it and coming together as a team. That's a big part of who we are. And so we're very excited to have you here today.
I think one of the coolest things that has happened today is that all of your principals and your media specialists have worked to make sure that everybody that sees the presentation today will get a copy of Jason's new book, Stuntboy, in the meantime. So Jason, talk to us a little bit about Stuntboy. Welcome. Welcome to Country Bookshop. Welcome to North Carolina.
Sure. Listen, I'm so happy to be here. I wish that we could be doing this in real life. I wish that I could be in North Carolina. Well, I love North Carolina, by the way. I'm there I used to be there all the time. Got love for y'all. I wish this were happening. But nonetheless, this is what we are. This is where we are. This is what we're doing. So it's all good. We'll make it do what it do. We'll make it go how it goes. So before I get into Stuntboy, I just want to say really quickly, like I was one of these kids who had an older brother who has an older brother whom I love very much. And to my older brother, or at least to me, my older brother was sort of like, he felt like magical. He felt like he knew all the answers to everything, right? Like I had an older brother who I really looked at like he knows everything. He knows how to do everything. He knows everyone. He knows how to fix everything. He knows how to get people out of trouble. He knows how to like get away with everything. Like he was like the coolest dude. And so there's one day I'm like 6 years old. I'll never forget this. I'm hanging out with my older brother. This is around, and all of you who are listening, you all are much, 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 much younger than I am. And I remember when the first Superman movie had just come out, right? And Superman, back then, there was an actor named Christopher Reeves that all of your teachers know about. This was, to us, this is our Superman, you know? And we watched the movie, we came home, and I remember just my brother being like, Jay, you know, you could fly if you wanted to, you know what I mean? Because I was so enamored by Superman being able to fly. I mean, there was a whole catchphrase, right? It's a bird, it's a plane. It was a whole thing, right? And my brother's like, Jay, you could do that. I mean, we had already known about Peter Pan, right? And Peter Pan's whole thing was like, if you just believe, right? You could believe you could fly. And so my brother's like, I mean, Peter Pan, Superman, same thing, right? It pretty much works the same, right? Meanwhile, Superman is an alien, which we didn't take into account, but whatever. My brother's like, it doesn't matter. Peter Pan, Superman, you could do it too. And I'm like, are you sure? And he's like, would I ever tell you anything I wasn't sure about? I'm your older brother. I know everything. So he says, all you got to do is climb onto the armrest of the couch. Now, first of all, we were in the living room of my mama's house. If my mother had caught us climbing up on the armrest of the couch, this is a whole different story, right? I may not have been here to tell the story. Who knows, right? It's a whole different time. But here I am, I'm on the armrest of the couch and I'm standing up and I'm balancing myself on the armrest of the couch. And my brother's like, all right, look, all you gotta do, right, is just close your eyes and envision it. You gotta like envision yourself flying. I don't even know what envision means, right? And he's like, you just gotta imagine yourself. Imagine yourself flying through the air. Imagine yourself flying through the air. And then when you're ready, just jump off the couch and spread your arms like wings. And I promise you're gonna fly. Now, here's the thing, young people, looking back on it all now, I should have known something was wrong because one, we were inside the house, so there could have been no flying through the air, even if I made it, right? I would have flown, broke a hole through the ceiling, broke a hole through the roof, and then my mother would have been in trouble, and I would have had to fly for the rest of my life because I could have never returned to the house, right? But I didn't think about that. The second thing I should have thought about was, if my brother knows how to fly, why I never saw him flying, right? This is what I'm thinking about, right? This is what happens. You get older, you look back on your life and you say to yourself, why didn't I see this as a child? I should have been able to be like, well, how come I never seen you fly if you know how to fly? Didn't think about that either. Instead, what I thought about was my older brother knows everything. And so he knows that what he's telling me is true. I'm going to give it a shot. So I close my eyes. I imagine myself flying. And then I jump off the couch. I spread my arms. Turns out my arms are not wings. It doesn't work the same. And I land. I hit the side of the coffee table. Boom. Right. And I hit my chin. And there used to be, you can't see it anymore because I have all this hair and my face is bigger. But when I was young and I had a little teeny face, there was a scar that went all the way across my chin like this. Right. Because I hit this coffee table. Boom. And it opened up my whole face. Wow, it was disgusting. It was very scary. Right. My mother hears the noise. She turns around. She's in the kitchen. She comes over and she says, oh my gosh, what have you done? She looks at my older brother. My older brother says, I don't know what he was thinking. No idea what this kid was thinking. I just know he climbed up on the couch and he said he was doing some kind of imagining and he jumped off the couch and he hit his face on the table. Now, of course, my brother's like, I'm looking at my brother like, wait a minute, you're supposed to have my back. You're supposed to hold me down. But he doesn't. I get rushed to the hospital. They give me stitches and then I got to go to school and they say what happened. And then I tell everybody I hurt my face because I was flying too low. That was the excuse. Now, why does that matter when it comes to Stuntboy? Because Stuntboy is the same kind of kid I was, kind of kid who he really believed everything that everybody said on face value, right? Like if somebody says you can fly, it's like, man, maybe I can fly, right? If somebody says you can't fly, man, maybe I can't fly, right? And because of sort of the way that I was and my sensitivity, because I was a sensitive kid, it caused me so much anxiety, right? So much anxiety. Everything about my life and my brother always, he was the one that sort of made me feel less anxious, except for this moment changed everything because now I realized that my brother could lie to me. And so it caused more anxiety. And I'll carry that anxiety throughout the rest of my life. I carried it whenever I was with my friends and we got into trouble, you know, and they wanted to do something bad. And I was always like, I don't know, guys, this feels like a bad idea. I'm a little anxious. I carried it when I was on the roof of my friend's house one time as kids, and we were planning a ridiculous plot to jump off the roof. And I was the one who was like, I don't know, seems like a bad idea. I've already learned that I can't fly. You know what I mean? Not sure this is going to work, right? And throughout my whole life, I carried this, and but it got worse on the day that I found out that my parents were splitting up. And when that happened, the anxiety was a whole different thing. And I didn't know where to put it. I didn't know what to do with it. And it was the only time I actually wished that I could actually fly. And nobody knew what to tell me. Nobody knew how to fix it. My mom didn't know what to say. My dad didn't know what to say. And I actually was uncertain of what would happen with my life. You know, because some of us who have anxiety, for young people listening, you think that every decision that you make, that might be the wrong decision is going to affect every single human being on the planet. It's like if I do something wrong, it's going to cause a chain reaction and affect the kid over in China, right? Like it's gonna literally just sort of like go out of control, and suddenly we'll have an earthquake because of the one time that I threw a soda bottle on the ground, which is a terrible thing. Don't ever do that. But like it's like I'm gonna throw this bottle and it's gonna hit the ground and it's gonna crack the street and then it's gonna rumble and then the street's gonna open up and then my house is gonna fall in a hole and then my neighbor's house is gonna fall in a hole. Then I'm gonna fall in a hole. I'm gonna go all the way down to the Earth's core. I don't even know what that looks like, but I hear it's hot, and then I'm gonna go past the Earth's core, come out on the other side of the world, and have no idea how to get back to DC for dinner time. My mom is going to be worried. This is the way that I was thinking as a young person. Stuntboy is about that kind of kid, the kind of kid who wants to do right, who wants to do the right things, who wants to fix his family, who wants to be a kid, but he just has anxiety that always kind of gets in the way. Very simple story. All of us have been there. A lot of y'all know what I'm talking about, and you feel those weird feelings in your belly. And I wanted to write a book for us, for those of us who've been there. That's it. Super simple. It's fun. If you like Captain Underpants, you'll love it. If you like Wimpy Kid, you'll love it. And, you know, let me know what y'all think about it. Done and done. All right, let's talk to the youngest.
All right, so we do have some questions. I think one of the good ones to start with is, do you draw the pictures?
I wish. When I was a kid, I used to draw, and I was okay at it, but I wasn't as good as Raúl. That's this guy named Raúl the Third. He makes a lot of books, by the way, that you all should check out. Vamos and Lowriders in Outer Space, and he has a lot of good books. But no, I didn't draw the pictures.
So how did you and Raúl come to work together on this project?
You know what? Raúl had been doing so much good work. I mean, he's got a cartoon coming out. Like he's been doing so much amazing work. And I had written Stuntboy. I had written the whole book already, and I was trying to figure out who I wanted to illustrate it. And so I called Raúl to ask him if he knew anybody who could illustrate it for me, you know, because he knows all the artists. So I was like, oh, Raúl, like I know you know anybody who could do this for me? And of course he's like, I mean, I could do it, right? Like I could do it, but I wasn't thinking about him because he's so busy, you know, but he said yes. And it took him 4 months and we were done.
And that question was from Shania. I forgot to say that. Thank you, Shania. That's a great question. So let's see. How long as Angela wants to know how long it takes you to make your books, or how long does it take to make a regular book, and then how long does it take to make a graphic novel?
Every book is different. I mean, I look at a book like Ghost took me 6 months. A book like As Brave as You took me 2 years. Something like Long Way Down takes, you know, a considerable amount of time. I mean, it just depends. Every book is a little different. I mean, Look Both Ways took me 2 weeks. Right? Stuntboy took like a month, but it took a month after working on a different version of it for a year and a half. And then I changed it and wrote Stuntboy in a month. But I had originally written that book for older kids, and I had to rework the whole thing, and it took me a month to fix it. So like, it just depends. Every book has a different journey.
Okay. And how many books have you made altogether?
Gosh, I don't know. It's like 16 or something like that.
That question's from Shania also.
I'm losing count, Shania. I'm losing count now. I'm old, Shania. I can't keep it all in here. I'm trying. I think it's like 16 or 17.
So Kylie wants to know what you think your most popular book is.
I don't know. I mean, it depends on the age. So like if for shorties that's like 10, 11 is Ghost. If you're a little bit older, it's Long Way Down, you know. But it just kind of depends on how old you are. I just depend, you know, I don't know. And for me, I mean, it might be Spider-Man, right? Because it's Spider-Man. So a lot of kids have read the Miles Morales book. So it just depends. I don't know. Probably Long Way Down now, I would guess.
Okay. Marilyn wants to know, have you made chapter books, or do you think you will make chapter books?
Yes. And I mean, it depends. So like, it's interesting, right? Because the term chapter books is changed. It's changed. It's changing and continuously changes. So if you mean books like, I'm trying to think what would be considered a chapter book nowadays.
Like Magic Tree House or
Got you.
Bad Guys. Bad Guys,
right. Have I done that yet? No, but I want to. I think, yeah, I want to soon. I work on it. How about that? I work on it. I just got to figure out a really good story to tell for that format. but soon.
Okay. Wynette wants to know, why do you write?
Well, I mean, originally I was supposed to be in the NBA, didn't work, didn't work out. I was supposed to go be Michael Jordan, or for you all, Steph Curry or LeBron James, or, like I was a young kid who was an athlete, and I never wanted to write. I never thought I would be a writer growing up, but then I realized that it was a way for me to get some of my stuff out. We're all carrying around all this stuff. Even at your age, we all have stuff, things that we're afraid of, things that we're angry about, things that we're excited about, right? And I needed a place to put mine, because if not, it was just making me feel so weird on the inside. So writing was a way for me to get it all out, to get all my jitters out, get all my dreams out, and to say all the things that my environment didn't always allow me to say. Because when I was growing up, you grew up a boy, you couldn't cry, you couldn't tell people you were scared, you couldn't tell people that, there were stuff happening in your brain, and I wanted to make sure that I had somewhere to put it. And so that's why I started to write.
So this is a good question from Angela. So what does your mom think about your books? If you were an anxious kid, what does she think about, or what did she think about what you're doing with your life now and your books? Does she read them?
She reads every book. She reads every book first before anybody else does. She gets the very first advance copy. The publishing company makes sure we get her very first one. And she never likes the endings ever. She's always like, "Oh, I love this book. These endings kill me every book, Jay. I can't take it, But she loves it, and she's proud of me. I think that for us, I got to change the whole trajectory of I got to change my family. I got to show my family that we could do more and be more and see more, right? And live different lives and impact people all over the world in ways that, my mom is sort of looking at it. I'm her knucklehead son. She raised me. So for her, it's like the fact that my kid gets to move around the world in this way and thankfully has had this kind of effect on so many kids has been just a beautiful thing for her to see. And I'm grateful that she's allowed to see it, for sure.
So this question sort of follows that. Elijah wants to know, how long have you been writing? When did you start? Were you 2 when you first wrote your first book, or
was that 2? No, a little bit. I was a little bit older than 2, not 2, but a little bit older. No, I started writing when I was 10. I wrote the first book when I was 15. And I was an independent book that I was, back then we had to print books up and sell them out of the trunk of my mom's car, and it was a whole thing. And then I became a professional when I was 21. I got signed when I was 21 to HarperCollins. Been around a long time. And so, it's been a long journey. And I found writing through rap music. You know what I mean? I was a kid who grew up with rap music, and I used to read the rap lyrics and rap along and try to write rap lyrics. And that was the way that I was introduced to the power of language, and that I could even tell stories, and I grew up in one of these weird, funny, big, colorful families where everybody got a story to tell and everybody's lying, right? But it makes for good stories, right? And so I knew how to do it. I knew what I was supposed to do. And so I just needed an opportunity and some resource, and I made it happen.
So Johnny has a question. He wants to know if you ever almost gave up, if you ever wanted to give up, ever wanted to just quit.
Absolutely. I did quit when I was 23, 24. I quit, for a little while, came back to it. I'm gonna tell y'all something, kid, and this is something that it's tough for the adults, because all of us have we love you so much that we raise you all to believe that quitting is never an option, but it is. If it makes you feel bad, right? If it's hurting you inside, if it's harming you in any kind of way, anything that you're doing that is specifically a relationship, or any kind of, if you got a friendship that don't feel good, feel like you're hurting you, quit it. We should start teaching sort of healthy ways to quit things. I think it's okay. I think sometimes young people believe that they can never quit anything, and that they'll feel bad if they decide they don't want to do something anymore. Sometimes it's okay. All the adults in your lives have quit things. It's okay. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal. But don't be shaken by difficulty. There's a difference between something being hard and something being harmful. And so as you get older, you'll figure out what those two things mean for you. So yes, I did quit because it wasn't feeding me. It wasn't feeding me anymore. And I mean that emotionally, mentally, it wasn't making me happy anymore. And then I came back to it, and I'm so glad I did.
So there are a whole bunch of questions that sort of ask if you're famous, and if you've been in a movie. So I think let's just talk about for a minute what that means, what it means to be famous, or why people think being in a movie makes you famous. Talk about that for just a minute.
I'll tell you, it's such a funny thing. It's a good question though, to that young person. It's a good question. I'm so glad you asked it, because that's what I would have asked, like, are you famous? And the answer is that depending upon who you ask, right, depending upon where you are, the answer is yes, right? And that's a weird thing. It's a weird thing to even say, because what does it actually mean? Furthermore, does it actually matter, right? All it really means is that you are, that a lot of people know who you are, right? A lot of people know who you are. And even that's relative, because you could be famous in your hometown and no one else knows you outside of that town. You could be famous in your school and no one knows you outside of that school, right? And my situation is a whole lot of people that knows who I am. Is it cool is the question. Do I like it? Nah, I'm still just my mama's son. When I go to my mother's house, she treat me just like Jason she raised. Jason, come fix the printer and teach me how to text. She ain't, none of this stuff really matters. I think at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we remember the only thing that matters is, are you happy? Are you doing something to better the people around you? Are you taking care of the people who love you? It don't matter if a whole bunch of strangers have feelings about you. These people you don't even know. Because what happens with fame is that they tell you how much they love you, but at any given moment, they can also tell you that they don't love you anymore. And if you care so much about what strangers think, that's going to be a really hard thing to deal with. I can't worry about it. I don't think about it that way. I just do my job, show up to do my job, show up to love on y'all, and then going about my business. When I hang up from this, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to turn the TV on. Nothing abnormal. So don't worry about all that fame stuff. Have I been in a movie? No, I haven't been in a movie. There's no reason for me. I mean, I'm writing a movie. I'm writing movies and writing TV shows and all that kind of stuff. But no, I haven't been in a movie. And I know all those guys, by the way, and they're all just normal people too, eating Cheetos at home like me right now. No big deal. Just a job. It's just a job,
So we're going to drop back for just a minute. You talk about being anxious as a kid when your parents split up and when things didn't go exactly like you thought they might. And Jason C. wants to know, how were you able to cope with your anxiety as a child? And were you able, and how were you able to?
I struggle. Because back then we didn't really know what to do with it. It's not the same now, where it's an open conversation and we can all talk about it a little easier. We can all talk about sort of what we can do to manage it. I think when I was growing up, like, you never really talked about any of your mental stuff. It wasn't something that was as open like it is now. And so I just did my best to kind of to just sort of push it back as far as I could to get the things done. And you don't really know what it is. That's everything. I didn't really know what it was back then. I think everybody just said, "Oh, Jay, you always you worry too much." And I'm like, this ain't worry. Like, my whole body is doing something right now. Like, I'm really going through it. But yeah, I just didn't know it. And then I got older and I could see it differently and I could put a name to it. And then I started to manage it. So now I can manage it, right? Whereas as you all are young people, you can manage it now because you know what it is now. And you know that, like, there's medication for it to help you deal with it. There's all kind of therapy for it. There's all kind of ways to manage your triggers. You see it and know it when it's coming on. You know when you need to take a time out. You know when you need to take a deep breath. Right? We have these different things that we can do now. But when I was a kid, it just wasn't that way, unfortunately. I'm very grateful that y'all have it, though.
Oops. There was a question in here. There it is. Lauren wants to know, do you make sad books?
Do I make sad books? I don't think so. I mean, I think some of my books have sadness in them, but that's life. But I don't think we live sad lives, right? So if we don't live sad lives, then even though there are sad moments in our lives, then I think I don't make sad books. There are just sad moments that happen in some of these books. But ultimately, I think we're all doing okay, right? We're all just doing our thing, living our lives to the best that we can. There's going to be some sadness. There's going to be some happiness. There's going to be some winning, and there's going to be a little losing. There's going to be some fear, and there's going to be some courage, right? Like, life is about all those things. And my books, hopefully, are about all those things too.
Marilyn wants to know, when you're a kid and you like to read, did people bully you at all? Did you ever get bullied as a kid?
Not because I like to read, because I didn't like to read as a kid at all. But I did get bullied for other reasons. I mean, I was a small kid and they took advantage of me because I was small. I was I wanted to be cool and wanted to be fly and wear the name brand clothes, but we couldn't afford them. And I was teased for that. Right. Like teased because I couldn't get certain things or do certain things like they could or whatever it was. There's always a reason that for somebody to kind of bully you and tease you. But the truth is that like at first it was really hard for me. But, over time, and this is my theory, if you are your own person, first they'll tease you and then they'll copy you. So it's one of those things that happens and you'll see it time and time again, as long as nobody's putting their hands on you, as long as no one is tormenting you. But like people will tease you if you decide to be who you really are, whatever that is, and whoever that is, right? Wear a certain kind of clothes or whatever you want to do. They'll tease you at first, and then they'll realize that once you are bold enough to not change who you are, then you'll see them all becoming copycats. That's what happened to me. The other thing that happened to me is I joined the wrestling team. You'd be surprised what that does to people, to bullies. I'll tell you, they really back off you when they think that they suddenly become afraid of you. Violence is bad, kids. Don't do that. I'm just saying, for me, what I ended up doing was I joined the wrestling team, and suddenly everyone was like, "Hey, y'all heard Lil J is a wrestler now?" And they're like, "Is he?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I hear he's winning a lot of matches. And then suddenly I didn't have any more bullies. It's weird how that works. It's strange, Bullies are always cowards. They're never actually people who mean to do you harm. They're people who actually are probably having harm done to them. And so remember that when somebody's being mean to you, it's because somebody's probably being mean to them, right? And there's a way for us to sort of have a little more empathy for them, even as they're being mean to us. I feel bad for the bullies. I'm not afraid of you. I feel sorry for you.
Johnny wants to go back to talking about the writing process a little bit. And Johnny wants to know, have you ever had writer's block? And what did you do to get past it?
Oh, no, I don't have writer's block. You know why? Because usually writer's block comes from the fear of writing badly. I'm not afraid of writing badly because I know everything I write is going to be bad at first, until I make it good, right? Everything I write, let me tell you something. I wish I was there in person so I could ask y'all how many of y'all have a hard time writing, because I'm willing to bet that 90% of you would raise your hands. Because you know what I would do then is I'd tell you, me too. I have a hard time writing too, and I'm a professional. And then I would ask all the teachers in the room, how many of you have a hard time writing? And 90% of them would raise their hands too. The truth of the matter is that writing is difficult for all of us. I still try to figure out every day, I'm like, man, where does the comma go? Where exactly does the comma go? What is a semicolon? Why do we need this punctuation? Look, this is real, right? And so do I have writer's block? No, because I know that the first thing that I write on that page, the first thing, it's not going to be very good, but I'm going to work it and I'm going to edit it and I'm going to work with it. I'm going to change it. I'm going to rethink it and I'm going to make it good before anybody sees it, right? But it's all bad at first. I have a whole a shelf full of all my original drafts of my books. And if any of you read them, you'd say, it is ridiculous that they gave this kid an opportunity to do this for a living. But then I go through and I fix them. I change the sentences. I put the punctuation where it belongs. I fix the misspelled words. I make the story make better sense, right? This is all very real. So no writer's block for me. And honestly, for all of y'all who struggle with writing, just know that all your favorite writers struggle with writing too. All of us. We all have a hard time with it. It's hard.
So let's ask a personal question. So Anthony wants to know, you wrote rap lyrics. Do you make music?
You know what? It's so funny because when I was 19, 20, I was a songwriter for a very long time. Back then, Puff Daddy, or Diddy, as he calls himself now, he had a production company called Daddy's House, and I used to work for him and write songs for his label and all. And this is like a different life, this is a long time ago. And I was a musician for a while, and I played and toured and did all that stuff too. But that's a whole other part of my life that I no longer am a part of. But yes, I used to play music and make music and do all that stuff. But not anymore. But yeah, I did all that.
Okay, this question keeps popping up. We already talked about it a little bit, but tell us, Harmony wants to know, and a whole bunch of other people are continuing to ask, what influenced you to write books?
I think for me, the books that I wanted to read when I was your age didn't exist. Stuntboy and all these books that are being made nowadays, they didn't exist for me. I think back then, the most popular book in the library was The Babysitter's Club. And I tried to read one or two of those, and I was like, I don't know nothing about this. This just feels so far away from my life and my existence. I mean, I was growing up in a neighborhood, you know, it was corner stores, ice cream trucks, and you know, it was a different kind of community than what was being shown in the Babysitters Club. I'll tell you that much, right? Very different. And I wanted to see my story, my life, my neighborhood, the noise of my community, the families in my community, the trouble in my community, the fun stuff in my community. I ain't never seen none of that, none of it, right? I wanted to see a kid who wore sneakers, and they talked about the kind of sneakers he had on, right? A kid who listened to music. Like all of this stuff that I grew up with, that we just, a block party. And so I write now as a way to sort of fill the holes and to put those books back in the world and to say, like, these stories exist too, these kids exist too, so that you all might actually have something to read that you feel like belongs to you, that somebody's actually thinking about your life as you're living it today. And you don't have to wait until you're an old person like me to look back and try to figure out where the books were for you, you know. So that's the goal.
All right, I want to move away from the Q&A for just a minute and go to our media specialists and our book people in our different schools. And we'll start with Aberdeen Elementary. Michelle, do you have any questions for Jason or any comments or anything you'd like to say from your school or from your students?
Well, a lot of the stuff that our students were asking have gotten answered. We had some great ones, but one that didn't get answered that I know they were curious about is, how did you become such a great speaker?
Ooh, that's a good question. That rarely comes up. I appreciate that. You know, that's my mother. I was raised in this house with my mom. Her whole thing was, look, the world is tough. Life can be tough. One of the biggest tricks that you can use to get ahead is to know how to be a good speaker. If you know how to handle yourself in a crowd and know how to articulate and communicate, then you can kind of get over in ways that you might not be able to, because the number one fear in the world, the number one human phobia is public speaking. So if you can do it, then you basically are like separating yourself. You can put yourself in a better position to win. That was her whole thing. And so whenever I was mad, so I'd be in the house and I'd be upset with something that she did, or she'd tell me, oh, you're in trouble, I'm going to punish you, or whatever it is. And I'd be mad and pouty. She would say, like, and I would talk under my breath. She would say, what did you say? And I would get scared, right? I thought she was going to be mad. And then she'd be like, no, you can say it. But if you're going to say it like you mean it. Say it so I can hear you across the room. Don't mumble it. Don't chew on it, right? Say it with some confidence. If you disagree with something I've told you, cool. But say it like you mean it, so that it make me believe you. And so I would have to like lift my head and roll my shoulders back and say, I just feel like you're being unfair. I feel like you're being really mean to me. And it wasn't even my fault. My big brother did it and you're blaming me for it, right? But I would have to sort of project this. And she would stand on the other side of the room to make sure that I would say it loud enough and confidently enough for her to hear. And when you do that every day, when you sort of live in that environment and you live in that space and you're being trained like that, as you get older, this is what it looks like, you know? I couldn't say, I couldn't say, she was very hard on us about that. When we were talking to her, she'd be like, ain't gonna be no ums and uhs. Think first, be clear in your intention, and communicate confidently and intentionally. And that's just what it was.
That's great. That's great advice. That's one of the most important things you can be able to do, is talk in front of a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mrs. Bleck from Piney Grove Elementary. Anything your kids didn't get to ask, or anything you just like to say about Jason or his books?
2 questions. What book was the most challenging to write? And when you start writing a book, do you automatically know what the ending is going to be?
Oh, what was the book that was most challenging to write? Oof, there's a lot of tough ones. I mean, As Brave as You was a really hard book to write. That book was a really hard book, just because there's so much going on. There's so many characters. There's so many different like plot twists, and I don't know. That book was a tough one. So Brave as You was up there. Stuntboy was a tough book to write too, just because it was a different kind of form for me, and it was me sort of writing in a different space and writing with a different kind of humor. And that book was complicated. All the books are hard though in their own right, but those are probably the ones that I would pick. In terms of what was the second part of the question? I don't remember.
When you start writing a book, do you automatically know what the ending is going to be?
When I start writing the book, do I know the ending? Usually, yes. Usually I do know how the book is going to end. Usually I know the beginning and I know the end. So I always say I know A, Z, and Q, right? Like Q is where the conflict happens. I know when the bad thing is going to happen, right? But everything else I have to fill in. The other alphabets, I got to figure out how to make it all make sense, right? But I usually know the beginning. I know what's the thing that's going to make the book, make the characters go through some sort of weird conflict. And I know how it's going to end, usually, for sure. I see somebody keep asking me about if I'm going to have it. I should start a YouTube channel. You know, I might, but I don't. That's a lot of work. Who has the time? Like I got to write books and get on camera every day and talk to y'all. Like I don't know if I can do it. You know what I mean? But look, I'm gonna hire you to come and you run the YouTube channel for me, and then I got you. You know what I mean?
And we'll take one last question from Mrs. Lancaster from Montgomery County Schools, from Green Ridge Elementary or Montgomery Learning Academy.
I've just seen a lot come up. I know Stuntboy just came out, but are you in the process of writing your next book now, or do you take some time off, or how does that process go?
I rarely take time off. I mean, this is a different book, comes out in 3 weeks. You know, there's a lot of work. So this book comes out in a couple of weeks. So Stuntboy came out last week. Another book comes out in a couple of weeks. I've got a few books coming out next year. Like it's, you know, I'm always working, you know, I'm always I love what I do and I work really hard at it. I love it. I love to tell stories. I love to think about the world in these different ways. I love to challenge our young people to be better, and to challenge our old people to be better to our young people. And I think, you know, hopefully a break will come at some point, you know, a vacation or something. But until then, we just keep our head down and keep pushing.
All right, last question. Jason, thank you so much for being with us here today. Appreciate your time and your taking our questions that are kind of all over the place, but so much fun. The books are just so much fun, and the stuff you write is just wonderful. But we have the most important question of the day is, what is your favorite food?
What's my favorite food?
Favorite food?
Any kind of fish. Give me a piece of fish. You could fry it, you could bake it, you could grill it, you could broil it. Any kind of fish, I'm good to go. You know what I mean? I don't eat any other kinds of meat. I used to when I was a kid, but my body says no more. That's 15 years ago. You know, I used to love a cheeseburger. 15 years ago, a cheeseburger or some chicken wings. But I can't eat it anymore. So now just give me a piece of fish and I'm good to go. Oh, you're muted.
In my mouth. Is there, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Anything you want to leave us with? Words of wisdom?
Yeah, just, you know, to all the shorties listening, I love y'all. You know what I mean? I hope you find that in the books. I hope you read the books and you're like, man, whoever this is, this dude really loves us. He cares about us, you know? And I think that's all I really ever want to say to you. I love y'all. To the teachers, I love y'all too. I'm grateful for the work that y'all do. It's a thankless job. You know what I mean? Young people, be kind to your teachers. They're doing the best they can. And teachers, be kind to your young people. They're doing the best they can.
We love you too, Jason. Thank you for what you do.
My pleasure. Y'all, see y'all soon.
All right. Thanks.
Peace.